1, 2, 3. Okay, we are live. Let me just share the screen here. Hope everyone's doing well. I know the markets are an absolute bloodbath. I've been kind of very concerned the last few streams. The reason for that's pretty much, the 4-year cycle, halvening cycle, whatever you would like to call it, and all the other patterns and cycles that we have been following. Hope everybody is doing all right. If you go over crypto, it's pretty funny. People are extremely bearish, and if you just check out the Twitter feed, people are capitulating left and right. And indeed, it's been a tough cycle. BTC hasn't performed as well as previous cycles. Altcoins haven't performed at all, except for maybe a last few rallying like Zcash and Dash. And then obviously meme coins have taken a lot of mindshare. What's up, UFO to go? So it is tough out there, We'll cover a few things. I would like to zoom out as much as we possibly can and talk about some of the market structure. And we're just going to look out for market structure. We're looking for M's at the top to signal tops, and we're looking for W's at the bottom, right? So just to recap, that was the W on the monthly scale, although it was pretty ugly. The weekly it did give a small little indication that the market wanted to reverse. Once again, bottoms are much easier to call than tops, and until we have some confirmations, there's really no one that can tell you that the market has stopped. But we will look at those. Generally, you don't get the best market structure at the highs. But we'll cover that. For the monthly, the candlestick chart will only, there's really no structure there because this is a V top and there's really no M at all there. And we should not expect it to give us on the monthly. Look at previously. There was just once again a V top, and the rules for trend changes are, and specifically for the top, is you need a high, then you need a low, then you need a lower high, and then a lower low. That is your sign for a top, for structure at least. You need more than one reason to take a trade. Structure isn't quite enough. You will need some divergences, at least maybe a trend line break or a trend line cross. Whatever indicator, really doesn't matter, and that's what trading and investing is pretty much all about. No one is correct 100% of the time. It's just giving yourself a slight edge and then managing your risk. So all of those are complicated, triggering words. But anyway, we will just stick with market structure here. This is the monthly scale. And we do have an M here, and it's ugly. There's still a lot of time in this month for it to confirm. The previous month just faked us out because it closed at 109. So it didn't quite break the lower low. It closed above it, but now we are trading below that. That was the 108 area. So this month has lots of days still left. So what we need to do is if you're a bull, you need to reclaim this 108 level and close the month of November above that price. So, that is as clear as it can possibly get. I don't know if it will be that easy, We will know if this closes here and we start retesting these breakdown levels and get rejected. That's that. So firstly, we need the close. Some would say you might even need the retest to confirm it, and then a break lower. But this is only the line chart. And I think it's more valid for institutions and especially older investors, as most of assets in history has really never traded 24/7 like crypto does. So you would probably look at something like BTC on the futures charts, right here, the CME, and it is there, right? That's the same M there. So that is the weekly scale. If we go to just to recap that, it's not confirmed unless we close a candle below that. So there's still a lot of time there, luckily for us. So we'll see by the middle of this month if the trend wants to change. This is generally how long these consolidations have taken. So, and funnily enough, each consolidation has been half of the time as the previous one. Now, time is an incredibly important and often slept on a narrative or a data point in the market. W. Gann used to say that time is more important than price. When the time is up, the price will reverse. And that's why I take time analysis so seriously, as it is just as important, if not more important, than the price action. So if we, and just the candlesticks is not there at all. For the candlesticks to be bearish, it needs to have like something like that, right? And then close below these levels. But I don't suspect they're going to make it as easy as that for us. What's up then top? Monthly Ikimoku for BTC. What's it saying? Let's actually look at that. I think I have the crypto Ikimoku here. So, I mean, it's just, it's really not giving a signal because you need for it to cross, right? And it hasn't really even given you a bullish signal. It's been bullish forever, right? We don't have the data back here. The lagging span is still above price action, which is bullish. That's the only thing you have. And it will have you close your long once the price action closes below 76k. So, I mean, we can quickly look at that on the weekly. This has been bullish and given you a bullish buy since 30k. And it is now touching the faster moving span, but as we can see here, it's touched this line many times before, and it's even touched the slower span as well. Price is above the lagging span. I think the close is going to be extremely late, but it's now trying to find support on the green 30. Okay, let's just close this and just simply concentrate on, and I want to go to the Bitstamp chart. I mean, this is valid bearish market structure, right? And we are just holding on to the breakdown level as support now, and I'll just plot it in for you guys. So there is the breakdown level. Have we pierced? We haven't pierced below it just yet. It's still holding support on that line. It got really close. Let's go to an hourly just to see how close. Look how close we got to that line. I don't know if it holds here. I can imagine that all of these short-term indicators are quite oversold, and that we're gonna at least have need to have a bounce here, unless the market is that weak that just the floor falls out from underneath us. But the weekly is just on the cusp of losing that very important line. If we do on the line chart, this has already been broken down. The the weekly has not confirmed it yet, so the close hasn't been there. Let me just make sure. Yeah, because the weekly close still hasn't. So it's not confirmed just yet. That's pretty much what I want to say. If we invert this chart, the only saving grace here is that this isn't very symmetrical here on the weekly. And what I mean by that is, you know, you'd like to see this second V at least come to the 61.8 fib retracement tool, which it hasn't. It's quite deep, but that could just signal, well, in this inverted chart, it could signal extreme bullishness, but in our case, that would be extreme bearishness, because the buyers just couldn't push this up anymore. I know that could be a little bit confusing as I've inverted the chart, but it's good to invert the chart every now and then to just check your bias and maybe put it on the log chart so it doesn't look that volatile. So monthly, it has the structure, but it's not confirmed yet. Weekly, it's the exact same story. It's not confirmed yet, but it's not looking good. We did have a little W here, or an M here, and that was also valid. Let's just see, because I was still higher. You see it here? That already signaled to you that there was kind of some weakness here. And now a second one here. Although we did have that peak, that's a classic fake out. But still, no one on the monthly can tell you this trend is yet bearish, because we have not closed the lower low just yet. We're still defending that level. But on the candlestick chart, that would be the breakout level. I wouldn't be surprised if we do get a little bounce here, because those indicators must be extremely oversold. There's still a lot more room for this to move, as there's really no bullish signals that has flashed at all. You know, you want to see like bullish flashes down here. Like, we can see how these indicators mark the bottom perfectly. And if this was the top, look at how many warnings there have been, like bear, 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 even bearish prints on the top here. So yeah, the bullish consolidation or the bottom takes quite a while to form. I mean, but even if you bought when this started printing, you would have still been pretty good. Like, you would have started buying at 20k and just keep on buying during these dollar cost averaging during these times, right? I'm not a financial advisor. This is simply what I do, right? And every time these bearish prints, you would have been left behind many times. But if you bought these lows and took profits every time on these, you know, you would have done pretty well. But once again, one indicator is not enough reasons for us to take a trade, right? So the weekly on the candlestick chart, if it closes below 103.530, there is a case to be made that the top is in. Many divergences at these highs, right? Just to cover some of the top news here in Bitcoin. There has been a major hack, right? Balancer is one of the older DeFi projects that have been out there. There's even a fork of it on Pulse Chain, right? And we can just see more than 100 million has been stolen thus far in an exploit of Balancer DeFi. Balancer DeFi recovers 20 million hours after the multi-million hack. That's Yahoo Finance. Crypto protocol Balancer hit by $128 million hack. It's always interesting how the cycle tops generally have a hack at the top. The Mount Gox hack, the first one that just absolutely collapsed the price of Bitcoin. And yeah, I know you guys don't want to hear bearish news. You want to be bullish all the time. But we have to take these things seriously, right? And reflect on what has happened in the cycle, how you've performed, what you could have done different. I know hindsight is actually important. You know, we don't want to make the same mistakes that we did in the next one. I mean, many people are, you know, I don't really want to hedge my my analysis by saying, you know, this could go higher. Some of them, you know, the guys that were the most on point throughout the cycle, you know, they're looking for 145k, etc. And Ben Cohen himself is saying, you know, there's 8 weeks left of Q4, but he is saying that Q4, it will top in Q4. You know, we just have a few more weeks left for Q4, and that's fine. And he's basing that off the 2014 cycle, and that's fine. And some Twitter guys that I follow as well, saw me also. I really enjoyed Tommy throughout the bull market, but they kind of got disappointed when he fully pivoted to PDI and fell for the narratives. I think that's the most important thing that I've once again learned in that cycle, is that just don't trust the narratives. You know, we do cover the news and stuff sometimes, but it really doesn't have that much effect on, you know, the most important thing is, and people don't want to hear this, is the chart and the price action. That's the most important thing. You know, the most bearish news appears at the bottom and the most bullish news appears at the top. And now the news we have now is that quantitative tightening is stopping, you know, and people just assume that we're going to have quantitative easing just straight off the bat, which has not been confirmed at all. You know, quantitative easing, you might be stimulatory, but I have trouble believing rate cuts are bullish. Just like, you know, the rates have been very, very high for a long time, and assets are at all-time highs. You know, maybe it's the opposite. Maybe cutting rates are bearish, and maybe increasing rates are bullish. You know, because I mean, it's what we've seen thus far. You know, the rate cuts are low, assets are at all-time highs, or the rates were relatively high. I mean, at 5%, right? It's been much higher in the past, but you know, assets are at all-time highs. Everything is at all-time highs. BTC is unfortunately lagging here, but I mean, look at gold. It's just all-time highs. ESP. The S&P it's just going and going and going. So we've looked at the daily or the monthly. We've looked at the weekly. It looks terrible, right? This can easily be another head and shoulders that's breaking here now. Where's the strong tool? Shoulder here, head, and another shoulder here. And down you go. There's also the ugly M's just everywhere. You know, there's your M, but it hasn't closed yet. So no one can really tell you or make a case that the top is in just yet. Everybody is looking at this moving average. Let's put an SMA in here, simple moving average. This 50 week moving average. Let's just see where it's at on the, like right below us. What's that level? 103,000. You know, if closes 2 candles below that, that's the analysis, and that's the bull market, right? Finished. Trades above it, bull market on. Trades below it, bear market on. And the daily, I mean, the daily is as bearish as it can get. There's so many M's here, and I'll just mark a few out. You know. So there's your high into the low, loses it, right? So that's an M confirmed there. Then there's more here, another one here, broken, and the candle I mean, this daily is gonna. Let's see. I mean, if you can reclaim 106k, which it should be doing, it should be rallying to close above 106. It's gonna confirm another M on the daily. So there's a lot of bearish structure on the daily, and this is technically a downtrend. Then you get your complacency. This is chance for those. For the bears or for the bulls, the last chance for them to get out on this trend at least. So we'll see what happens on this retest. Watch 106.303. It needs to get above there, right? But it needs to get going, because this is ugly. Now I don't know if the hack, this is, like we said, like all of the bad news just starts piling on, and especially on the lows as well. As the lows are confirmed and start breaking out, there's just good news upon good news upon good news. Yeah, I mean, there can be a lot more good news that come out here, more rate cuts, and it's not going to affect anything unless it's something that the market did not expect. You need a government to reopen, the shutdown to end. You need quantitative easing to start. Those are some of the bullish signs that you might see for this market to turn around. And this is that massive liquidation event that sits at 104. If we start trading below those levels, oh my word, and we start closing candles below it. Let's just look at some of these indicators, because I'm pretty sure, I mean, they're not even firing bullish just yet. Are there any divergences to speak of just yet at these bottoms? So no real divergences even just yet. Let's go to smaller time frames. Let's get the divs off. Let's get the SMA off. 5 potential divergences now forming here. We do need to see a little W come in here at least before heading out. But at least we do have some divergences forming. None of them have been confirmed. So there's no long just yet. It still needs more time. See if there's any bullish prints. No bullish prints just yet. There is some divergences, yeah, like as we've seen here. Now we can go even to lower time frames. Now we're just coping hard. But I like we can see these lower time frames is definitely a little bit oversold here. So I wouldn't be surprised if we do have a bounce here anytime soon. And if you're a bull, you need these highs, previous lower highs, to be taken out. As the market has a lot of work to do, unfortunately. So pretty much all time frames, it's not looking great, eh? Commodities are now rallying. This is a front runner of inflation, as all of these raw materials are now getting expensive, or at least breaking out of their lows. They've sat at these lows since August of 24, and now breaking out. So I don't know if the inflation numbers are going to be very, very positive. If inflation starts going up again now, and the Fed wants to cut rates, Powell's just going to stop. It's going to enrage Trump, and Powell is going to be fired. But I'm no fan of the Democrats at all. But we have to give it to Powell. They've done a pretty good job, if we trust the numbers. They've got an inflation. The reported inflation numbers are down, and assets are at all-time highs. There's actually no reason for them to cut rates. Unless they're doctoring the unemployment. That AI is already taking a lot of humans' jobs. So yeah, there's definitely not a lot more jobs. If it's real, maybe this AI thing is just a bubble. And maybe that will be the narrative that collapses the stock market, right? But this is as down today as well, another percentage point, this is going to take a month of downward pressure, and if BTC has topped last month the 6th, we're already a month in, and the S&P tends to top after BTC does. All of these things are starting to line up. I don't know. Don't ask me what altcoins are going to do. Best case scenario is they just trend sideways because, they've not performed at all. There's no... the only trapped buyers are those that have been accumulating and dollar cost averaging for literally years now. Fear is only at 27 here, and it feels like the market is much more fearful than we were back in from... Was that the third month? Yeah, that's the third month. January, February, March. March until April, right? Yeah, so that lasted for a few months, this consolidation. Now, as we are later into the cycle, this consolidation doesn't have much time. It needs to either it's a top or this consolidation is very, very close to being finished. The fear feels much more than it did during that time earlier in this year, because people are capitulating left and right. I don't know if they're selling into this. Generally, retailers round trip their bags. If they have made a lot of money, they're going to round trip the entire bag gold throughout. So don't know, those guys that have bought, been buying throughout the cycle, especially on Pulse Chain, are they going to capitulate now at the lows? Are we going to send the Pulse Chain down another 70%? Like, what's that going to look like? And that's for all altcoins, right? Most of them have not performed. Let's just see where this is. Because altcoins do like 70 to 80%, That's hectic. That'll take you like 10x down from the all-time or from the SAC price. Where's SAC price? Let's measure that from the top. SAC price there. That's a good psychological level. Like, oh man, yeah, that's 90% down from SAC rate. Hectic. The thing is, we sacrificed Hex at all-time highs, like 5,000x from the lows. And not only that, the bull or the whales got multipliers on their bags. How's the outlook on gold given the rotation theory? I'm not quite sure. Are they like the rotation that these gold bugs are gonna rotate to digital gold? I don't know. This looks to me like a parabolic blow off top. I mean, we can just zoom out and it looks, that's incredibly powerful. Went as high as 4,400, just above the 4 extension, the 4 fib extension. Let's see what it did in its previous cycle. It went as high as the 2.6, so it even performed better than what it did in previous bull markets. This could have been like, I constantly said earlier in the cycle that this is going to be that 18 years, but this has been longer than 18 years. We'd had to see massive blow off tops in all assets, for them to have a reason to bring these things down, rotate into risk on crypto. Yeah, so Gold is pretty risky, right? This is like your flee to safety kind of vibes. And I just don't see how they're gonna, all these boomers are gonna get tech savvy and start buying crypto. No, yeah, but these are institutions, these are banks. Like these needs trillions and trillions of dollars to move this price. Because it's been suppressed for a very, very long time. Let's look at what silver is doing. Because silver is going to top at the same time as gold does. This just peaked above all-time highs and now is once again trading below all-time highs. The ES is, this. I mean, you guys, this can be that's 16.8 year cycle top. The same shit we had in 2009. I'm not the one that that calls for recession vibes, because I mean I made these YouTube videos on my channel where I explicitly said there's not going to be a recession. Assets are going to go higher and higher and higher. Let me just get that for you guys to at least show you that I'm not talking crap. View your channel. No recession, right? Not clickbait. S&P are about to hit all-time highs. This was a year ago, right? When everybody was still bearish. Now, and I went through all the reasons, and that's pretty much played out now, right? And I stood at the side of being bearish throughout, right? Throughout these major dips. It's quite vocal, saying, there's still more time. This has to continue going higher. But we're getting to the end now of a major, major macro cycle. And it's time to be cautious. I mean, property is unbelievably expensive right around across the world. The boomers are stinking rich in assets. I don't know, are they gonna let them die? They're ruling the world pretty much. They don't want to cede control. Many of these people literally. I mean, some of them actually died while being leaders, especially in the U.S. Congress. Those people die while they're still serving. So I mean, they're in hold of power currently. That is actually why the reason the world is as it is that the boomers don't want to let go of the power and all of the wealth they have accumulated. Yeah, and I don't see them, not getting their retirement funds. But either way, nothing has stood in the way of the 16.8 year property cycle. It runs in these cycles, except world wars. That's the only thing that throws these things off. And we haven't seen a world war. COVID was a interesting little experiment that happened there that might have extended or shortened the cycle slightly, but we're coming into it now, 2026. Not only the Benner cycle, and I measured this. We had an interesting little analysis the last time that I streamed. I wish I could make this larger. Open a new tab. How's that going? Oh, that's perfect. That's beautiful. We're coming into 2026 here, right? This is where years of good times, high prices, and time to sell stocks and any value of any kinds. And this cooled the bottom perfectly in 2023. And we analyzed this, and it did show that the selling or the buying happens a few months before 2023, and I'll just show that again, because BTC bottomed in November of 22, right? just before that signal came in. Let's just see here. And 2023 was the pretty much the higher low. So if we do that same analysis, just flip it or invert it, it will give us a lower high on assets in 2026, right? So 2026, this should be a lower high. Something like that, right? So that's best case scenario according to the Benner cycle here. And then there's others. I should actually take some time and scan those charts in. That shows that the 6 year of the decade is the bearish here. The 3 is the buying here. And the 5 is the higher prices. So I should actually just do a stream on that sometime. Yeah, do go read this. I'll post this link in the chat. Interesting how the investment cycle chart made it in the 1800 shows a top in 2026, not 2025. Yeah, but it showed a buying here in 2023 and the market bottomed in 2022, late 2022. So, but I just covered that for you. I think I don't know if your message came in a little bit later. Okay, I mean, what's the Bitcoin dominance doing? You know, this looks like, yeah, freaking out. This looks like it wants higher. This is, yeah, I don't know. It's not going to matter much. I just think BTC is just going to outperform everything to the downside, you know, if this is to roll over. The only reason I'm saying that is because literally only BTC, Solana, Sui, and a few other coins caught a bid, right? And most of the other coins are literally at their lows. Pulse Chain is a good example of that. The dollar, which is relevant here, no one thinks the dollar is going to do well. It's literally about to break out on the candlestick chart. On the line chart, this is already breaking out. The dollar is strong here. Right, this does not spell good for risk assets. That's the daily. Massive market structure. Although the weekly, it's not the prettiest. But if you put this on the line chart, I mean, this is as clear as a breakout as it possibly can. Like, these are multiple W's at the bottoms here. Strong, you know. And the risk assets bottom when the dollar tops. And you can see here risk assets, the S&P also rolling over slightly here. But the S&P does peak after BTC does in the past. I mean, ETH is just absolutely ugly. You know, I caught a lot of flack for saying that there's no way that ETH goes above 4K again. It was somewhere down here. But look what it took, right? It took straight up, like a V bottom and straight up. You know, it made a little bit of a W down there. But this is not sustainable market structure. This is not enough accumulation to flip and rip something like this straight up like that. And look where we are now. We're now trading below 4K, and it needs a miracle. It honestly needs a miracle here to get above 4K now. I was wrong for a few weeks. But the only reason that I said that is because there wasn't enough time left. And they had to rally it straight up. This is complacency. This is like people getting out, you know. And you know what? Trump and all his children are shilling crypto, but this is where institutions buy. They don't buy these things up here. Or, you know, the super rich, those that have insider knowledge. Yeah, so it's bleak out there. I mean, Euro is rolling over here. This is ugly bearish structure up here. Clear M's there, just M's on M's. This is now rolling over. It shows dollar strength and weakness for risk assets, right? Gold, I mean, how is, you know, it's just straight up, you know, think this was the macro top here, you know, people lining up to buy gold at the freaking highs. And this is practically the stories for altcoins. You know, all altcoins haven't performed greatly, and we can use Link as an example. This massive liquidation event, it's taken out all of the buy support that was sitting there, people that had limit orders. You know, this is going to fill this entire week, and best case scenario is we just hold these lows until the next bear cycle finishes. And then maybe the altcoins can recover. You know, maybe some of these things. Yeah, it's all copiuming negative, you know. And I keep on repeating myself over and over again, you know, I look at NVIDIA, I mean, NVIDIA just gapped up. If you zoom on this chart, this is just unbelievable. You know, this looks like an altcoin. And what is going to top this thing? Because these things can't go up forever, you know. The market hasn't opened yet. It's actually opening now. The pre-market is down quite significantly here. I know, and we'll see what the narrative is that develops. Maybe the whole narrative is that the AI has been overinvested and it's not as, or they can't monetize it properly. You know, maybe there's too much competition. I don't know. You know, thinking about the narratives when you're a chart guy, it's actually silly. So I'm not going to speculate on that. Total market cap, I mean, at least we made an all-time high. You know, this was my measured move, the short I talked about the other day, last week. You know, it's sprinting. You know, it's 50%. You can now move this stop loss to break even. Yeah, and it's marked here to where I think this cycle bottoms in, down here in the reload zone. Worst case scenario, we retest these breakout points. Total 2. Ugly, ugly, ugly. Just peaked the all-time highs. And they can bring this down all the way down here to this breakout point here. You know, I capitulated on most of my pulse chain bags, like literally back here. Like at 2.6. I spoke about this last time when we lost these lows. And we've really struggled, you know, to keep anything here. I hope for another rally, you know, so I can exit the small trading bag that I have. That is bleak, unfortunately. You know, I'll wait for the daily to be oversold or create some divergences. Maybe we have a rally. But this is, I mean, this is less than 5% of my crypto bag, so. And it has been heartbreaking, you know. We thought it would have at least performed better than this. But it's heavy. It's incredibly heavy. There's so many large bag holders in this. You know, and there's people that made a lot of money, you know, during this cycle on Pulse Chain. People that got, you know, people that didn't have money before that made a lot of money. You know, they're sitting on bags. I think they round trip it. So yeah, I know, I'm sorry that I'm not a negative Nancy here. It's not really what I'm trying to do. I've always tried to be a rational voice, you know, and so yeah, if I'm just looking at this chart here, just quickly and just plotting my ideas, you know, I think we retest this level. Let me just sort this out here. What's that? 2300. And once again, this is a good lesson for everybody here. A chart is only bullish once you start trading on the other side of the downtrend. This is the downtrend, right? You need to see a W on this side of the downtrend. Especially for something that is as new as this. So yeah, I mean, there's still time left for this, and maybe maybe that's the best thing that can happen for Postchain is a bear market. And I think people are going to stick around. There's probably going to be some opportunities as well. So just at least keep an eye on it. That I'll be the first one to say now it's bullish again, but there are some clear things that need to happen, and it's not happening just now. So I'm gonna be here the next bull market. And I think I'll be active throughout the bear market as well. I still enjoy looking at charts and talking about crypto. I just hope that these altcoins can at least perform a little bit better next cycle. It will be the perfect trap, and Sammy has talked about this a lot. As everybody is now conditioned to be a Bitcoin maximalist, and that will be the perfect time the next cycle to rally the shit out of these established altcoins. So, and that will show the strength of the community. If they continue to be active during the bear market, which I think they will. Everybody was still very active throughout the Hex bear market, and technically we've only had down only. We've only been in a downtrend, and we've all been active. The engagement that Postchain gets is actually insane. So with that being said, I'll finish this live stream. I think we've covered a lot. There's no real need to go into all of the other altcoins. I mean, all of them look horrific. I mean, Solana, this is the only structure Solana has. It's at $26. I don't see them, catching this. Like, if it breaks 95, that's straight down to 26. Now that would be very healthy for this chain if it does that. We'll chill with the up arrow. It just needs to find a consolidation. The range is not going to be that high. It's going to be small, something like this. All right, just for now, hey. Always enjoy your TA. I appreciate all you for us plebs. I'm a pleb just like you guys, hey. Maybe we make it next cycle. Just for now, stay strong, eh? Always, please, guys, play from a position of strength. Don't get wrecked.